Hi everyone. So I thought I would share a kind of a technique I've been using lately for doing my eye makeup, and instead of focusing on creating kind of this crease shadow, I've been working with the natural kind of contour and shadows in my eyes that are at the front of my eye. I feel like this is something that I see more being done on people, but not on YouTube all that much. So I feel like a very common eye shape on beauty YouTubers is to have a lot of space between your crease and your brow, to have kind of a little bit more of a lifted look where the socket is there's no hooded situation happening. It's very pulled back. You can just go in there and really kind of carve out the socket and work with that shadow that is there already. So you can use those looks on my type of eye shape for sure, but that does feel like I'm trying to force something that's not really there. So the past week or two, I've just been playing around with actually adding a little extra contour on the inner part of my eye. I think we were watching an episode of Elementary, and I really like Lucy Liu's makeup. Her makeup artist has kind of given me a lot of ideas over the time that the show has been around. Just having a lot of highlight like above your brow into here. I mean, she has a bone structure that's really interesting. So, you know, her makeup artist, I'm sure, just gets to kind of play around with that. And one thing that I noticed in a couple of weeks ago, I guess, was that she has a very defined kind of socket area that's on the inner part and it kind of goes up and whatever, but that looked a little bit more enhanced. And I was thinking, you know, I should really just kind of take a look at my eye shape. I know that I have a tendency to get really kind of a deep darkness in here, and in the past, when I've tried to do really heavily contoured looks, just kind of playing around, I've noticed that sometimes it can even look like I'm frowning if I bring that color in too far, or I take it too far up right in here. So I knew that was there, so I just started playing around with it, and I've had a lot of fun because I feel like I can really boost that contoured, sculpted eye area in a way that I can't really get on this outer crease, because it's just a fold in my lid, you know, it's not an actual, like, there's nothing going back there. So I really like just playing around with my existing eye shape. But what I've been using probably the past week or so is my IT Cosmetics My Sculpted Face contour palette. And I do have a review and demo of how I use this for very subtle contour on my face. And I'm actually going to do something a little bit more not subtle on my eyes with this palette. So I use the white, this very light kind of almost rosy brown. Sometimes I use this color. The only color that I don't use consistently is this one because it's so orangey. And on my skin tone, it's going to just bring out and enhance that orange shade, so I don't really want that. But I also use this deepest shade to kind of really amp up the shadow. And just for something fun, a little bit more colorful with a palette that a lot of people have, I use the Wet n Wild Comfort Zone palette on my lids. So if you are curious to see how I do this contouring with my eyes and how I got the rest of the look, then stick around. So the first thing I'm going to do is just put a powder all over my eye just to give me a little bit smoother of a surface to work on. Sometimes primer can leave it a little stickier than I want if I'm trying to do a lot of blending. So I'm just going to take the white matte shade from the IT Cosmetics palette. And this is quite sheer, so it's not like it's going to be super white or anything. If you are not as fair as I am, probably won't quite work as well in that capacity, but I didn't want to bring out another shadow. Something I use for this sometimes is the Wet n Wild Single in Creme Brulee. It's a little dark, but it works. So first I'm going to take a really fluffy brush. This is a Sigma E35. I also have used the Sonia Kashuk 109. Is it 109? I think so. 109 or 106. One of them is a flat shadow brush. The other one is fluffy. And I'm going to take this lightest shade in the IT Cosmetics palette. It's kind of a almost rosy light brown. Very pretty. And so I can kind of look back here and I see that this is where I have kind of the most deepness, and there's a little bit of a natural shadow right there. So I'm trying to accentuate that natural shadow. So that's where I go in first. And then I just kind of spread this out everywhere else. Sometimes I go all the way up into my brow. Sometimes I try to keep a little area in between. Depends how kind of deep set I want it to look. And I also have to make sure that my brows are dark enough to be enough of a contrast. So next I will just go into a darker shade. I think I might just do a tiny bit of this darkest shade. Sometimes I use this one, which is the second darkest. So I'm going to use the small taper blending brush E45 from Sigma. I also like the Laura Mercier crease brush. That's very stiff and I like how it blends out. So now I'm just going to take a tiny amount of that really dark shade and go into that same little spot and just kind of deepen the shadowed look. Just kind of sort of pull it over into my brow. Now I'm just going to go back into the original lightest shade and kind of start adjusting the shape, how much deepness I have, kind of blending that darker shade to make sure it doesn't look too harsh. When I'm doing this, I'm kind of looking down into my mirror just to get a better view of kind of the natural shadow and then building off of this. So it's similar to how I contour my face. I want to play off the existing shadows instead of trying to create new ones. This brush is not my favorite just because it is kind of scratchy. I like the stiffness and the shape, but the scratchiness is, when I'm using it a lot for something like this, it can get a little annoying. So I think that is all I'm going to do as far as the contour goes. I am going to now just put a little bit of that white in a little bit more of a focused manner on my brow bone, and that will kind of accentuate the contour a little bit more. And at the inner corner and down in the kind of lower part of my tear duct into my lower lash line. So I am going to make this a little colorful. I'm going to use the green shade from the Comfort Zones palette from Wet n Wild, and I'll take that on a flat shadow brush. This is the Ulta small shadow brush or eyeshadow brush. I'm going to take the brow bone color, this kind of cream color, also on this brush, and I'm going to put that more on the inner part of the lid. Keep it nice and bright over there so it doesn't get lost in the darkness of the contour. And then on the outer corner, outer third of my lid, but not up into the crease, I'm going to take that kind of MAC Club-ish dupe with the definer shade, which is like a really reddish brown, and then it has a kind of a teal shimmer. I'm just gonna pull that into the green for something kind of fun. Okay. And I'm just going to go back to the lightest shade that we use for the contour and blend above where the colorful shades are. And I'm just taking a clean brush, this Lauren ponytail brush. It's so tiny. So I just don't want it to be a really stark transition between, or gap between the contour shade and the colorful shades. Okay, I think I might just deepen up the contour a little bit more. I'm gonna use that dark shade again on this really fluffy brush, and we'll just try to make this a little bit more dramatic. This brush applies so softly. It really blends out everything just straight away. As opposed to going in with kind of that pointed brush, which requires a little bit more effort. Last thing I'm gonna do is just kind of freshen up the that outer darkest shade. Looks like it kind of disappeared a little bit. And then last step, normally I would do this in a different order. I would put the concealer, my under eye concealer on after I had done the majority of the eye stuff, and then go in around the lower lash line. So I am just going to take the light shade again on a fluffy brush and go pretty far down on my lower lash line. Since for me, I do have a pretty large kind of lower lid area, I just want to accentuate that a little bit more. Last thing is just a little inner rim highlight. I am using a very old discontinued product, but whatever you like to line your waterline with for brightening purposes. This is a Maybelline Unstoppable liner in Twilight Pink. I just like this because the color is quite subtle. As you can see, it doesn't look super pink, it doesn't look super bright. And it lasts well for me because it's quite dry and it fades very nicely. So this was in my favorites video, actually, which I will link below in case you're curious. Maybelline Clump Crusher mascara, whatever mascara you like, obviously. So that is the eyes completed. So I'm just going to put on some lipstick, touch up my nose because it's looking quite pink, and I will be right back. Okay, so I just touched up my nose with some concealer, the Makeup Forever Full Cover Concealer in shade number 1, and add a little lipstick, and this is the Maybelline Creamy Matte. Where is it? This is the Maybelline Creamy Matte in Daringly Nude. And I think I'm going to be doing a video with swatches of these, if you are curious. So I hope that was helpful, maybe made you think about contouring your eyes in a little bit different way instead of just doing the same old crease stuff. Maybe taking advantage of a contour that you naturally have and just kind of bumping it up and see how it looks. I think it could be something I had to get used to for sure, just because sometimes it does look like I'm scowling, and that's not really a look that I want to put on my face. But let me know your favorite way to contour your eyes and what products you like to use. I would love to hear it. And if you have any requests for future videos, I would also love to hear those. I just kind of think about things that I have to offer that maybe are a little different, a little fun, whatever, and that's what I do. But I definitely would love to hear from you if you have some ideas or thoughts or requests, etc. So I hope you are having a wonderful week. If you are getting the snow that is here, I hope you stay warm and safe. And thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.